I hope you're all excited for what will be, I think, a pretty spicy conversation. We're here to talk about competitive moats. And in 2026, at a time where intelligence is becoming ubiquitous, the definition of building a durable moat is changing. This is a hot debate right now. Let's say you've got only enough resources to invest in one area, to build one moat, if you will. Where would you place your bet?
Yeah, I would say customers, as close to the customers you can get, because that is your real advantage. And essentially being closer to the customer allows you to, labs and other big companies will not have the focus to stay as close to the customers. So all the customer-related insight that you can drive is where you have the highest chance of success.
Yep, I would bet in building trust. At least in a space like ours, legal tech. Getting a wrong answer might mean someone loses their home, someone loses their freedom. It might be like a lawyer or even a judge that is sanctioned because he used a precedent that the AI invented. So, I mean, in a market like ours, trust, I think it's the only thing that it evolves, it scales faster than technology, right?
You will probably uninvite me from this panel, but I don't believe in technical moats. So my recommendation for everyone who's starting right now is next 12 months, obsess on product market fit. If you don't get it in the next 12 months, make it your life mission to get a product market fit. Everything else follows. You will start to hear from your customers what are the technical requirements. You will decide on what you're going to be great and what you're going to be using a vendor, what you're not going to be caring about. That's my philosophy.
I think mine aligns pretty closely with that. I think a startup's only moat is focus and the talent density that they bring to that focus. There's nothing else, and that's how we can defend against anyone else, because we can put even more weight behind that arrow than anyone else can.
We all know AI is writing more and more code. You heard Sundar this morning say, up to 75% of code at Google is now written by AI. So it may not be intuitive for everyone to think that owning that user experience at a time when more code is generated by AI becomes the defensible thing. How does Replit think about kind of the evolution of the IDE in the code development space?
I think there's always been a cognitive dissonance between the fact that, yes, AI can generate a lot of code, and this very dystopian view that we're not going to be needing software engineers anymore. The truth is, especially in larger companies, the vast majority of time, even pre-AI, was not spent on writing code. It was spent on aligning people and deciding the requirements of a project, et cetera, et cetera. So part of that process has indeed become faster. But everything else, and especially the complexity of creating very advanced software, is still 100% there. So owning the entire software development lifecycle means that, especially for the kind of market that we are almost charting from the ground up, because we are really targeting every single knowledge worker in the world, we are training them on what's going to be the user experience on how you create software, which is not based at all on the last decades of how we created software in the world. So we're figuring it out as we go. Yes, models are improving, but also the user experience we offer is basically making progress on a daily basis. Owning that entire end-to-end means that, first of all, we know what our customers want. We listen to them on a daily basis, so we can really add every single bit and piece that they need for that experience straight into Replit. We're being a one-stop solution. And I think this is probably the only defensible moat that companies like us will build over time. Yeah. And it's a combination of infrastructure, AI, user experience. It's basically what I was telling before. It's the real product market fit equation that makes a difference.
Okay, Felipe, let's talk a little bit more about vertical SaaS. So why can't pick your favorite frontier model? I have mine. Show up in Brazil tomorrow and just do what you do.
I think people are still underestimating how much work has to sit on top of the model in a regulator, high stakes market as ours. Of course, the labs will look at Brazilian law, and they will see a segment that the models already kind of know, and they're kind of right. The models have read Brazilian law, have read Brazilian case law. They can talk like a lawyer. They can write some things right. They can, write a motion that is plausible, But our main challenge at Just Brazil was to actually prove that a specialized, grounded AI would outperform the general purpose models, and these legal tasks, because on the rapper discussion, right? People think of specialization as rappers, but they're not. I mean, it's us doing a lot of stuff, building on things that the models alone can't give you. For us, it's proprietary data, proprietary structuring, it's continuous evaluation by domain experts, it's feedback loop tied with like real professional use at scale, and for us, I mean, our specialized grounded AI, it outperforms all the general purpose models for more than 70% of the legal tasks that we have in Brazil. It hallucinates 50% less, which is in this market, it's a big thing, right? And actually, that's why we became the number one case of legal AI adoption in the world. It's like over 1 million paying users from between like common citizens, keeping tabs with their rights, lawyers in their daily practices, and companies, institutions on high stakes decisions, So, I mean, any company, you guys will continue to deliver like great models, but there's so much work to make that output actually trustworthy on a courtroom, on those big life-changing decisions. So yeah, that's why.
I've been holding a strong belief in the last few years, which is connected to a question I think you asked Felipe before. You were asking him, what happens if 2 years from now models are going to be so powerful that they replace part of the job that you're doing? So what I want to tell to any new founder in the room is expect that to happen. It has happened basically since LLMs came out, and they probably always exceeded our expectations. No matter if you are a practitioner, no matter if you come from a research background, I was literally like training LLMs until a few years ago at Google, and I think it was hard for all of us to imagine how much powerful they would have become today. So start from that expectations. They're going to be able to do way more. The truth is, all of us have more work to do now than we had 12 months ago. Because the moment this technology is more powerful, it means that your product has way more scope than it had before. So if you're starting from today, try to imagine this is where models are going to be a year from now, 2 years from now. What kind of insanely crazy product can I build because of that? Like, I don't have the luxury today anymore, because now I'm more on a relatively strict roadmap that has to move really fast, as someone was saying, but people know what we build and we're just going to evolve over that. If I was starting from scratch, I will come up with the craziest possible idea. I think that's what's fun to be like a 0 to 1 founder.
One other thing on the startups and moats that I think would be interesting to add is like, I think I had this moment in November, December-ish of last year where it's like, okay, now someone could build TurboPuffer a lot faster than we were able to build it. And there's probably a lot of people in this room and on this panel too that think like, wow, like this startup, it took me like a summer and change to build the first version of TurboPuffer, and like it was not even close to as good as the one that we have now. And so some people are like, well, can't you spin up a competitor now in 6 months? You can, but the thing is that they're compounding from zero. I'm compounding from a code base and a customer base that's much further ahead of that. And so I think that's a really important point. But it's also a point of like, if you are not very good at adopting these tools and you're not compounding very fast on whatever it is you have now, like you will get again smoked by someone who compounds from zero at a much faster rates, right? Exponentials are absolutely, we're all getting like reintroduced to exponentials here, right? Of these companies that are growing at 30 to 60% month over month, right? And it goes very, very fast, very quickly. It looks slow for a little bit, and then it completely spirals out of control. And so that will happen to people if they are not very good at adopting these tools.
So in closing, huge thank you to the panelists. I think we tried to keep it as spicy as possible. I appreciate the candid responses. Last thing for the folks, if you haven't seen the Future of AI report, unbelievable amount of deep insights. So take a quick scan, have a read, and thank you so much for joining.